What up, y'all? Welcome to a new episode of Being Black in Germany. So today I want to talk about, first of all, thank you to all my subscribers and the people who commented on my very first episode. I was really touched. Thank you. And then also I want to apologize for not being as consistent with uploading episodes because I'm lazy. So sorry about that, but I will try to do better, I promise. Okay, so let's get right into it. Dating while being black in Germany. Okay, yeah, so as I said, we're gonna talk about dating while being black in Germany. And I actually realized that this subject is so big. I'm probably gonna split this into a couple of parts. Like I will upload like a video discussing dating while black in Germany every now and then. Like it's not gonna be like, 5 consecutive yeah, no, I have speech problems actually. I was gonna say it's not going to be like 5 or 6 consecutive parts. You know what I mean? So just so you know. So this is going to be the first one. And I want to talk about something that I feel like is a very common misconception, which is that there are so many differences between white men, as I like to call them, translucent ones, and black men. Where do I start? Okay, so I think and this is crazy. Like I heard this from a lot of friends, because I'm Ghanaian, and so my black friends that I talk to, they are also of African origin, and a lot of them have told me that their mothers would encourage them to date white men because white men they don't do wahala, as we say in West Africa. Like they don't cause a lot of problems, they are more understanding and stuff like that. And I do think that in German culture in general, Germans aren't very feisty. Like they're not gonna go out of their way to fight with you. I feel like they're very reserved people. So I think that's just Germans in general. I don't think it is because they are white, and that's why they are more rational or something like that, right? And so I heard from a lot of friends that growing up that their mothers would encourage them to date white men, so that they would marry them, and I think those are just stereotypes because I'm here to tell you that how do I put this? Let's just say trash has no color. I do think that culturally, white people and black people are different, but not like in Europe it's different than in America, I think, because in Europe most black people that are here are from direct African origin. So our parents ingrained in us, dear God, need to learn how to speak. Our parents ingrained in us our cultures, like their cultures, right? They passed them down. So regardless of me dating a white man or me dating a Cameroonian, for instance, there's always going to be space for conflict, depending on how deep we have an understanding of our culture. There are people who really don't care about their culture. And I think if you intend on dating a white man versus like an African man, you may not be able to fully live your culture the way you would if you were to date somebody who comes from the same African country as yourself. So if you're in Germany and you're trying to date, I would advise being intentional. I think you should know why you're dating and what your goal is. Like if you're somebody you just like to date and just be out and have fun, then that's cool. But if you're somebody you're marriage minded, like you're marriage oriented, then I would definitely recommend trying to figure out, okay, what is it that I want? What is it that I'm not trying to compromise on? What is it that I may want to pass down to my children if I want children? So yeah, about intentional dating or dating intentionally. I was on Clubhouse the other day, and there was like this discussion. You know, it was a bunch of, you know, migrant children like myself, and it was a discussion about what if you came home with, you know, a person of a different African origin than yourself. Like, how would your parents feel about that? And a friend of mine said something that really stuck with me, because she said she wouldn't mind, like, she's Ghanaian, and she said she wouldn't mind dating a Congolese man. But here's when the problem starts, right? So her mother isn't the best in German. And what if the Congolese mother isn't the best in German? Then they can't even properly communicate, right? So, and I think that you have that regardless of what combination you go for, like whether it's Ghanaian and Congolese, or, I don't know, Nigerian and, I don't know, South African, for instance, right? Because when you marry, it's not just about the two people, it's about the families that come with those two people. So I think that that's something that you really need to consider, you know, and also, how is that person going to fit into my family, and am I going to fit into that person's family? Because if we're keeping it 100, you know that African mothers can be quite particular about their children and who they, you know, intend on marrying. So those are things that you really need to consider. Like, am I willing to adapt to his or her culture to a certain degree, right? And I feel like that's a problem that we face in Germany way more than, for instance, America, because in America, most people are Americanized, you know, by the second, third generation. So I'm not sure how prevalent that problem is over in the States, right? But here it's definitely something that happens over and over again, just because, you know, most of us are kids from migrants. So yeah, be intentional about your dating. You have to know what you want, and you have to know what you are willing to compromise on. And I think that also, you know, in terms of religion, that's also, I think, something that one needs to consider. Like, we can both be Ghanaian, right? But what if you're a Muslim and I'm a Christian, and I'm, like, to me it's so important that my children will be raised with the Christian faith. Like, is that really going to work? Like, how much are you willing to compromise, right? So those are just things that need to be considered, all in all. So going back to translucent men, I think all in all, it's weird. Like, I'm, you know, I surf the internet, and I'm on a lot of, like, American, you know, forums and stuff like that, and also on Clubhouse. There are a lot of conversations about, you know, white men or non-black people in general dating black people. And there's, like, this weird misconception that somehow white men would treat you better. That's what I was talking about earlier, you know, like African moms encouraging their daughters to marry white men. I don't know where that comes from, but when I read the news, I don't think that white men are a lot easier to deal with, to be quite honest, regardless of the white men that I know. But my friends are my friends. Like, I have white male friends and I have black male friends, and I don't think that my white male friends are somehow better than my black male friends. Not at all. I think they treat me with respect, and yeah, we're friends. So it you know what I mean? Like whatever misconceptions exist don't translate to me in my personal life. That's all I know, you know. So yeah, trash comes in all colors. Like, if you think you're gonna date a white man and somehow live your happily ever after just because he's white, you're in for a very rude awakening. I'm just here to tell you, you know. But in general, I do think that dating in Germany, you're gonna have to be a bit open-minded, because there are just so many different people in one spot, right? So if, for instance, you're like, oh, I only want to date black men, your dating pool is going to shrink. And then you're like, okay, I only want to date black men who make a certain amount of money or something, your dating pool is going to shrink. And then you're like, okay, I only want a black man who's, I don't know, 6 feet tall. Your dating pool is gonna shrink. And when you're like, okay, you know what, I only want a countryman, your dating pool is going to look like this. So yeah, you're gonna have to figure out where you're willing to compromise, right? And like for me personally, I think dating in general is hard because, you know, I traveled a lot to the States and I traveled a lot to Ghana, and then when you're exposed to a lot of different people and, you know, a lot of different things, your mind opens up and expands, and then it's just harder to connect with most people that may not have traveled as much, you know, without trying to sound condescending or anything like that. But I think that anybody who's ever lived in 2 places at least knows what I'm talking about, you know. So yeah, I mean, if there's somebody out there who wants to fast and pray for a husband, I'm all for it. But other than that, yeah, it is what it is. Just to get back to the whole white man versus black man thing, and, you know, the similarities and the differences. While I do believe that trash has no color, I feel like African men have different expectations of African women than maybe a white man might. Like, I feel like a lot of African men, they just expect you to be very much in tune with your culture. And I don't think that's too much to ask, actually. I really don't think that's an issue at all. I think we all have preferences, and I think that everybody has something that they look for when they're dating. And I think it's fine to stick with it. I think it's fine to uphold those standards. However, if you're not very, you know, in tune with your culture and your language and stuff like that, dating a translucent man might be the thing for you, to be quite honest. If I'm keeping it 100, because they're not gonna put so much emphasis on, you know, your tradition, for instance. But I've found that a lot of African men, especially if they weren't necessarily born here, like if they still have like parts of their culture, you know, very deeply ingrained in them, they do put a certain value on tradition and on culture. And that's not to say that African men somehow believe that all women belong into the kitchen. No, but an African man might demand some jollof from you. I'm just saying. You might be like, so are you gonna make some jollof today? And you might be like, well, I don't feel like doing that. But anyway. And then also, if you're not married, you don't have to do what that man says. But anyway, to get back to my initial points. So I think that's like, to me, that is like the biggest real significant difference between translucent man and black man. Like the importance of culture, because I've never really met a German man who felt, you know, culture was so important, or preserving culture was so important. But I have met a lot of African men, you know, the ones that were born here, and also some that came here to study or to work, and that was really important to them. And I understand that it's not, you know, something that I think is unreasonable, to be quite honest. So this is basically it. I really didn't want to make this video too long because, like me, I have a short attention span and I can't do videos that are too long. But I hope that you were able to take something away from this. And do please let me know what you thought of this video. Leave a comment, leave a like, share it, tell somebody to tell somebody that they need to tell somebody to watch this video, and give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys so much.